watch this.
Public transportation in Nampa is running on fumes. Not enough people taking the bus might mean that option could be taken away. But Valley Regional Transit suggests more might actually lead to more.
Motocross is one of those things you can keep doing and doing and doing.
Getting around on two wheels is an option for some. Well, getting around a dirt track, that is. We drop in on the oldest rowdy riding club in the state to check out their method for mud and mayhem. Another piece of history to celebrate today, it's Cinco de Mayo, but the backstory there isn't as simple as it sounds. For most of the Treasure Valley, public transportation consists of, the buses rolling around Boise. But Valley Regional Transit is just that. It's around the Treasure Valley. That service, though, outside the City of Trees is once again in jeopardy. Last year, Idaho's third largest city considered cutting VRT, but they didn't, which is why those buses continue to run around Nampa. But because of a lack of riders, that service is again on the chopping block. However, Valley Regional Transit says city leaders, you're looking at this all wrong, at least from the wrong direction, as in adding more routes might mean more people on the bus. Aspen Shumpert took a ride today to see how any cuts could have an impact.
For 5 weeks, I got up, I drove to the nearest bus station, and I take the bus from Nampa all the way to Boise. Is there really a problem? Or are we trying to create a problem that already has a solution for it?
Councilman Sebastian Griffin is advocating for transit cuts after he witnessed low ridership commuting from Nampa to Boise for law school.
Here's the problem. They would drop every one of those people off in Meridian, and then it's me and one other individual heading to Nampa, getting off at the same spot, and then one person going to Caldwell.
But Elaine Clegg, CEO for Valley Regional Transit, says that low ridership stems from insufficient service, not lack of demand.
Ridership may be low because it's just not attractive today, and increasing means it's more convenient, it comes more often, it's easier to use.
For comparison, Nampa pays about $800,000 a year for 3 fixed routes, while the city of Boise pays millions for nearly 20 fixed routes. But Councilmember Griffin says Nampa now faces difficult budget choices.
We're in a pinch. If I want to spend $1 million, do I want to spend it on the 2 to 3 people riding that bus in the morning, or to add 2 or 3 more officers to make sure Nampa stays safe? If there's not the demand, if there's not the need, and we can't fund it properly, we're not utilizing the resource to the extent that we should be.
So, Valley Regional Transit has gave the city 4 options. The first is to maintain service as it is today, then to increase it, decrease it, or cut it entirely.
Right now, I don't have a car, and this is my main way of getting to my classes.
Brandon Tafoya rides the bus in Nampa at least 4 times a week to get to the College of Western Idaho campus. He's not in favor of any cuts.
There's some people like me who sometimes just have to rely on the bus, whether that's for going to school or going to work, whatever. I personally don't think it's a good decision.
Clegg says cuts in Nampa wouldn't just affect Nampa residents.
It hurts the people in Nampa who are using them today to access jobs, access services, access cultural opportunities, so that they're not left isolated. But it will also mean that people from Caldwell won't be able to get to Nampa for jobs.
People like Alfredo Llanes, a Nampa resident who says riding the bus is a blessing, giving him access from Nampa to Caldwell and Nampa to Boise.
My whole family kind of, depends on it, so relies on it. So if I wasn't able to commute anymore on the bus, it's kind of like I wouldn't be able to see my daughter.
For Councilmember Griffin, he sees benefit in getting rid of fixed routes and keeping on-demand service.
The 150 is a good option because it's picking people up where they need to be to take them where they need to go.
King and County riders can share their opinions on the 4 options that Valley Regional Transit is proposing at their open houses tomorrow. They will be at both the Nampa Library and the Happy Day Transit Center in Caldwell from 3 to 7 p.m. Valley Regional Transit emphasizes it's important to hear from other King and County residents, not just Nampa residents, as this is an integrated system and it's going to affect more than just the people of Nampa.
Okay, so you were on that bus today.
I was on that bus today.
Not many people with you, though.
No, we rode it from Caldwell to Nampa, and that was about 3 people, and then we rode it back from Nampa to Caldwell, and it went up to about 5. Some people got off in between there, but as you can see in our video, not all of the seats are filled.
Pretty light ridership. All right. Thank you very much, Aspen. A tragic and fatal house fire and maneuvering the modern-day culture wars on college campuses. A few other items of note from today in today's 411 from around the 208.
Tell your neighbors, your neighbor's house is on fire.
A 15-year-old boy is dead after a house fire in Garden Valley last night. The freshman at Garden Valley High School was inside at Terrace Lake's home when it burned down around 10 p.m. The Boise County Sheriff's Office says a propane tank did explode during the fire, but they have not revealed how it started. Lori Vallow-Daybell is already asking for a do-over in Arizona. Less than 2 weeks since she was found guilty of conspiring to kill her 4th husband, Vallow-Daybell claims one of the jurors knew of her murder convictions in Idaho, which is just one of the reasons she's asking for a new trial. Let there be light. Well, 3 of them anyway. The traffic signal at Highway 55 and the Banks-Loman Road in Boise County is up and running. Idaho Transportation Department says that light is going to help improve safety and efficiency at the very busy intersection. Boise State University sent a letter to staff about navigating the new Idaho law limiting diversity, equity, and inclusion on campus. In a letter obtained by KTVB, the university emphasized their commitment to academic freedom and free expression around the new limitations. They said they will interpret Senate Bill 1198 with state board policy in mind, making clear faculty must be free to teach without, quote, interference from institutional administrators, elected officials, governing boards, or other entities, end quote. That law goes into effect on July 1st. Early voting is now open. The May 20th election includes several school bonds and levies, library districts, highway district positions, and more. Now remember, not all counties have an election, so double check by going to voteidaho.gov for your sample ballot or text the word VOTE to 208-321-5614, and we'll send you our KTVB voter guide. And that's the 411 on the 208. So how many of us head to the foothills to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle and the sounds of the city? Oh yeah, they're a place of peace, all right. You're gonna find, some dusty trails, chirping birds, maybe the occasional mountain biker. But if you listen closely and you're in the right part of the foothills, well, you can hear they're not just echoing with birdsong. As Hunter Funk found out, they rumble with history and some horsepower.
This is the time of year in the Boise foothills. The tranquil area trades quiet for chaos. Welcome to the not-so-peaceful Cove, home of OMC, the Owyhee Motorcycle Club, the host of the longest-running and third-largest vintage race in the country. At this race, the engines are old, but the history of the club is even older.
We're going to cut the radio for a minute for a news interview.
OMC has been here since 1940. We're 85 years old at this location.
It all ignited on a May day in 1935, where 7 men started a group called the Western Ramblers Club. They held races in ballparks and in the community. By 1940, the group landed on a new name, the Owyhee Motorcycle Club.
Yeah, when it started, there wasn't really motocross bikes. There was guys that took their street bikes and stripped them down, and that's where that club vibe started.
The club was born before motocross even had a name. In 1946, Don Gamble purchased 80 acres as a place for its members to gather and to host both social and recreational motorcycle activities.
They used to do all kinds of weird stuff, like slow races to see who can go the slowest without touching, or they had the blindfold race with people would have their girlfriends or wives on, and the riders would be blindfolded and the passengers telling them where to go.
From there, it morphed into the racing we know today, and the club still calls the same 80 acres home. For Rod Reynolds, a member for more than 50 years.
I started riding at OMC in 1972.
He says being in the club isn't about winning, but rather belonging.
A lot of people, they have friends that come in and out of their lives, but with me, my family has been here for 50 plus years. All the guys that are here pitting with us today, we've all grown up racing together. It's just a family environment. My son is the fourth generation of racers up here, so we've dedicated a lot of our life into this.
It's a legacy built into his family, and even in Idaho, as it's the oldest continuously operating club in the state. On October 6, 2022, OMC became the first motorcycle club and track in the country to land on the National Register of Historic Places.
That was one of my last contributions, I guess, to the club, was this National Historical Registry. And with all the urban sprawl coming in around us, we felt that that was one of the ways we could actually save the club.
In its 85 years, the track has hosted races bringing in people from across the world. And what's more fitting for a club and a track with a long history than a vintage race, bringing the past back to life.
This is one of the largest vintage motorcycle races in the country.
When they started these races in 2008, there were 68 racers. Today, there's about 700, some coming from Italy, France, even Ireland. And they have to ride bikes from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
I'm riding a motorcycle that I rode in the 70s.
Says it's not about speed.
My goal when I race is to make sure that my 50-year-old motorcycle doesn't break and that I don't break. And so if those two things happen and I finish, that's great, you know?
It's memories that racers hope will live well beyond the 85 years of history.
My hope is it's here for my grandkids. Yeah, a lot of memories at this place.
And they hold the vintage race every single year. And age does not matter. From teens to even an 81-year-old rider, Brian, everyone is doing it at this point.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, making sure the bike doesn't break and then he doesn't break.
Yeah, big
in that
news.
order, probably.
Scott did make it, so
Yes.
he is safe. No one was broken. So did his bike.
That's amazing. The guy was emotional about riding a motorcycle.
You know, he made me tear up a little bit, I gotta be honest, because he talks about how big of a family it is. It's kind of like this big reunion when they all come together. But the other thing that I didn't have time to mention in the story was one of his buddies. They have both been riding together for 50 years. So, wow. I mean, their families have basically grown up together.
That's exactly what he said. And can you imagine them trying to hold a blind race, the insurance liability that
I was
they
like,
would have to do?
you cannot do that today.
That's not happening today.
Yeah,
That's amazing. All right, thanks, Hunter. You know, we might be kidding ourselves if we didn't think Cinco de Mayo has a slightly different flavor this year. Granted, it does fall on a Monday, But is it because of the day or is it because of the year we've been in so far? Both Chicago and Philadelphia canceled their parades today, while Detroit's, they held theirs, but it was a bit more subdued. Regardless, while the 5th of May isn't about Mexican independence, it is a day of significance in Mexico, just not as significant as it is north of the border. And the change in tone for Cinco de Mayo, well, that isn't just for this year either. In recent years, it's become more of a hallmark holiday created to sell stuff. As we learned in today's 208 redial, think fewer well wishes and more well drinks. If this is the first thing you think of when it comes to Cinco de Mayo, well, you're not alone.
Drunk people, people drinking beer in the bars. That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Even university professors can't avoid it.
I think it's become very commercialized.
Dr. Dora Ramirez teaches Chicano studies at BSU, and she says the 5th of May is just kind of a carryover from outside the Hispanic community.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. Yeah, I mean, it's not a holiday that we celebrate. It's a holiday where we're just like, hey, let's go have fun, but it's nothing that we do in our homes. It's usually a community event. It's kind of like St. Patrick's Day, where you have to go back and do the research and really think about what does this holiday mean and what does it represent to the Mexican community.
What is the biggest misconception about Cinco de Mayo?
That it's our Independence Day, which it's not.
Nope. It is a commemoration of the Battle of Puebla, however, a May 5th, 1862 victory for a ragtag outnumbered Mexican army over a much more powerful French military who hadn't lost a battle in 50 years. Even though it was a short-lived victory in Mexico's fight to remain independent, Mexican President Benito Juarez made it a national holiday in 1867. But even that didn't last long.
Puebla, Mexico, or Mexico does celebrate it. So does Mexico City, but not many other places in Mexico celebrate it. So it's very much a U.S. holiday.
Dr. Ramirez says Cinco de Mayo's stateside significance started with FDR's good neighbor policy in the 1930s. It got a bit more attention in the 60s during the farm worker civil rights movement, and then it slid back in the background for another couple of decades.
And it wasn't until the 80s that the beer industry decided, hey, this is a good holiday to make some money.
It was, and is, sometimes outpacing St. Patrick's Day and the Super Bowl when it comes to beer sales. I can only imagine this has to be a little bit conflicting for somebody of Hispanic heritage to say, okay, you're looking at Cinco de Mayo and it's very superficial when it comes to our culture. But at the same time, it does help draw attention to that culture, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the thing with Cinco de Mayo, it was also used in the 40s, after World War II to really integrate American, values and say, hey, we are all American. And that's part of Cinco de Mayo that I think is missing. In our conversations about what it means, it's like bringing people together, not separating them or segregating them.
Well, the first thing you said when I asked you, what's the first thing you think of when you think of Cinco de Mayo, you mentioned drinking. What would you rather people think of when it comes to Cinco de Mayo?
How we can get along, and that sounds so Pollyanna, but how two cultures on one land can come together and really think about, like, how do we connect?
Two cultures in one land. The most recent report from the Idaho Commission of Hispanic Affairs showed the Gem State's Hispanic population grew by 36% over the last 10 years, and they're getting younger. They account for just 13% of the entire Gem State population, but make up 78% of the jobs growth in the state going back to 2009. And so as you're crunching your hard-shelled taco tonight or hoisting your imported beverage, remember, the holiday has a history forged in civil rights and celebrating social justice. Dr. Ramirez told us Cinco de Mayo's beginnings in America was a show of patriotism, but also this idea of instilling values of integration into a holiday. We also got an email from another Boise State professor today, Dr. Chandra Reyna, who is also the director of the scholarship program for first-generation, low-income, and underrepresented undergrad students. And she says, well, she's getting ready for graduation. She didn't have time to speak with us on camera today, but she did say, given our current political climate, the fear and distrust of our neighbors, both domestically and internationally, is discouraging. Quote, as a country that once took pride in providing opportunities to people from around the world and leaned into the idea of a melting pot, right now would be a good time to revisit and remind ourselves of our core, or at least ideal, values.
Well, the wind that has been howling for the last 2 days across the Treasure Valley has claimed some victims in Nampa. Greg posted this picture in our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook page. You can see the tree damage. Look at this huge branch that snapped off and is now on the ground. Looks like other trees as well. Some casualties of those winds that have been upwards of 30 miles per hour as far as sustained winds, gusts nearing 50 in many spots. You can see here on our view from Skycam 7 looking out over the connector. Trees in the foreground moving around. We still have 30 mile per hour sustained winds here in Boise. So that takes our temperature of 67. It makes it feel much cooler as these winds are out of the west, northwest, and are keeping a chill in the air today, despite the sunshine that we have overhead. So Boise by far seeing the most intense winds right now as far as areas that are on our map, but any area shaded here in red means we are seeing sustained winds upwards of 30 miles per hour. Not quite as intense as you head out towards the Magic Valley, but they have their own set of weather concerns to deal with there as we've had clouds and some rain showers over the eastern portion of our viewing area. Still for the Boise region, Treasure Valley, the wind will be our biggest weather headline tonight. It will continue to be a nuisance. It'll continue to mess with your hair and threaten to take that car door out of your hand through at least sunset tonight. So plan on that if you're heading out and about. Skies stay clear tonight. And as the winds ease tomorrow, we will have a really beautiful Tuesday on deck. So we're sitting in the upper 60s right now in the Boise area. Low 60s for Twin Falls, right around 50 for McCall. We do have a system swirling off to the east that is pushing some wraparound moisture into eastern Idaho and is contributing to the intense winds we have across southwest Idaho. Also, we could see a few showers persisting in the eastern Magic Valley, maybe over the Camas Prairie and the Sun Valley area through tonight into early tomorrow morning. Then that system clears out and that sets the stage for high pressure to start making its way into the Pacific Northwest and then right over the Gem State by later in the work week. So tomorrow we land in the low 70s with lighter winds, lots of sunshine, up around 80 Wednesday, Thursday, downright hot hot as we kick off Mother's Day weekend, our first 90-degree day coming our way on Saturday. And remember, if you ever want to catch long-form weather, we can get First Alert Weather Plus on KTVB Plus. It's a free download on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV. You get all the day's news and headlines and much more in-depth coverage on KTVB Plus.
Public transportation getting people talking today. Daisy Rain Martin says, my God, all I've wanted in my life is public transportation. Get a route near my house and I'm a happy girl, she says. Meanwhile, Larson in Emmett says it's time to quit the waste of money on buses. Do the demand system for sure. VRT, Valley Regional Transit, doesn't help itself when certain bus routes have little to no stops, i.e. Route 42. Hard to ride the bus when there's nowhere to get on it. I believe that's the one that goes from the transit center to the mall. 4 stops on that route from Nampa to Boise. Don't starve public services, then complain that buses aren't serving anyone. Like any network, more connections means more use. The new sprawling developments need stops, says Tony from Boise. And what Councilman Griffin fails to realize is that bus service keeps economically challenged people working and shopping. Take away transportation, and the cost of supporting them will be more, by far, what it is in savings. That's Kurt Nampa. And we'll try to do this again tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.